Now, marking a significant leadership milestone for women's leadership in the Catholic Church, Pope Francis has appointed Sister Simona Brambilla as the first woman to head a major Vatican office.
In a dramatic turn that has left millions of Catholics stunned, Cardinal Luis has sparked an explosive debate with Pope Francis, igniting a firestorm of controversy within the Church. What started as a simple disagreement has escalated into a heated debate, with Cardinal Luis openly challenging the Pope's vision for church reform. Could this clash between two giants of the Church mark the beginning of one of the biggest changes in modern Catholic history? Join us as we uncover shocking details of the recent heated debates and explore what this showdown could mean for the future of Catholicism, a battle for the future of the Church. In a shocking turn of events that has rocked the very foundation of the Catholic Church, an unexpected confrontation between Cardinal Luis and Pope Francis has left the faithful stunned in the Vatican in chaos. What was meant to be a routine discussion behind the closed doors of the Vatican has spiraled into an explosive theological confrontation that could reshape Catholicism in ways we never imagined. The stakes are nothing short of apocalyptic. This isn't just a difference of opinion, it's a battle over the soul of the Church itself. The conflict began in June when Cardinal Luis, known for his strong support of tradition, expressed serious concerns about Pope Francis's bold reforms. What started as a small difference of opinion quickly grew into a battle of ideas that has grabbed the attention of millions. Cardinal Luis, who upholds centuries-old teachings, worries that the Pope's sweeping changes could threaten the Church's core values. Meanwhile, Pope Francis, ever the revolutionary, stands firm in his vision of a church that is inclusive, compassionate, and willing to embrace the marginalized. This isn't just about doctrinal differences, it's a life-and-death struggle for the Church's future. The Pope's bold reforms, including his push for inclusivity, LGBTQ+ rights, and greater recognition of women, clash directly with Cardinal Luis's call to return to traditional Catholic teachings. Every day, the gap between these two leaders grows wider, threatening to split the Church apart. Behind closed doors, the divide runs even deeper. Cardinal Tagle, a key figure in the Vatican, has raised questions not only about the Pope's policies, but his authority. The Vatican is now split into two groups, one backing Pope Francis's progressive vision, and another holding on to the traditional ways. Tensions reached a breaking point in July 2023, when 5 conservative cardinals made a shocking move. They submitted tough theological questions about the Church's stance on homosexuality and women's ordination. These explosive questions have triggered what insiders are calling the Summer of Discontent, a rebellion that will echo through the Church for years to come. One of the most vocal reactions to this news has come from the supporters of Cardinal Tagle, who insists that he would never engage in a heated debate with Pope Francis. Many believe that the Cardinal, known for his humility and faithfulness to the Church, would never undermine the Pope's authority in such a manner. However, not all public responses have been positive. Critics argue that the Pope's progressive stance on social issues, while praised by some, might be undermining the integrity of Catholic doctrine. Pope Francis seems more concerned with gaining people's approval than with aligning with God's standards. One outspoken conservative Catholic wrote, "In the end, there are only two choices, to worship God or to worship the devil." This strong statement reflects a growing fear among certain factions that the Pope's actions may be steering the Church away from its sacred mission. Pope Francis responded in October 2023 with a statement that stunned the Vatican. Breaking decades of tradition, the Pope declared, "The Church is a refuge for all," urging the faithful to accept change as part of the Church's mission to serve marginalized communities. His words echoed his 2016 document, Amoris Laetitia, which sparked controversy by offering new ways to care for divorced Catholics. Since then, the number of divorced Catholics seeking help has risen by 40%. This latest statement could ignite an even bigger firestorm, deepening the divide. The back and forth between Cardinal Luis and Pope Francis has only fueled the growing tension within the Vatican. To understand the importance of this conflict, we need to look at the two key figures at its center. Cardinal Luis Tagle, born in Manila in 1957, quickly became one of the youngest cardinals in Church history. He has impressive academic credentials, but his political ties make his position complex. In 2016, Philippine President Duterte accused him of interfering in politics, sparking a controversy that raised questions about his motivations. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit and Latin American pope, rose from humble beginnings to lead the Catholic Church, showcasing his strong faith and ambition. Since his election in 2013, he has brought major changes, challenging long-standing traditions and connecting with the world in ways no previous pope has. Known as the Digital Pope for his use of social media, he's especially popular among young Catholics. However, his leadership has faced criticism, especially over the Church's sexual abuse crisis. Some say his reforms don't go far enough, while others view them as a crucial step toward accountability. Despite the tension, it's important to recognize that Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis, while differing in some areas, hold a deep respect for each other. Pope Francis truly respects Cardinal Antonio Luis, one church member shared. Any claims of conflict between them are simply false. Many within the church believe that, although they may not always see eye to eye on every issue, their shared commitment to the church's core values and their dedication to serving it during these challenging times could ultimately help bridge any divides. For many, the idea of pitting Cardinal Luis against the Pope feels fundamentally wrong, as it overlooks the mutual respect and common vision they share for the future of the Church. As the battle between Cardinal Luis and Pope Francis unfolds, it could determine the future of Catholicism and the Church itself. The world is watching, and the outcome of this clash could change history. But the fight isn't just about power. It's also about the very essence of what the Church stands for in the modern world. Tradition versus transformation. The showdown within the Catholic Church is intensifying, and it all comes to a head in October 2023 with Pope Francis's controversial encyclical, Delete Nosor, bursting with radical ideas that challenge long-standing traditions. The Pope lays out a bold vision for the future of Catholicism, one where love is the driving force behind spiritual identity, growth, and unity. While powerful, his message also touches on sensitive issues, challenging the Church's core beliefs and sparking intense debate. Cardinal Luis, the influential Filipino church leader who, while publicly supportive of the Pope's reforms, isn't afraid to raise alarms. What is his message? Cardinal Luis's message is clear. The Pope's global vision could weaken the strong connection between faith and personal identity. He believes that by focusing too much on universal changes, the Pope might lose sight of how important local traditions and values are to people's faith. For Luis, Catholicism is not just a universal set of ideals. It's personal. It's rooted in the family, community, and nation. The real battleground, however, is synodality, a term that's become synonymous with Francis's push for an inclusive church. The Pope's desire to open the doors wider to women, lay people, and marginalized groups is clear. But Luis has serious reservations. Without the deep, meaningful relationships that make faith more than just a set of policies, synodality risks becoming nothing more than another bureaucratic system. In the Philippines, where the Sacred Heart is central to Catholic life, Luis fears a world where faith becomes a checklist instead of a living, breathing connection. As the Church prepares for the 2025 Jubilee, this clash could shape the future of Catholicism itself. Pope Francis envisions a church that evolves with the times, embracing change and inclusivity. With the Vatican divided and no resolution in sight, all eyes are now on the 2025 Jubilee. Could this pivotal event become the stage for a final showdown? The tension is mounting, and the outcome of this confrontation may ultimately redefine the future of the Church. Luis's response to Delete Nos shows that he's not against change. He just believes that any transformation must honor the deeply personal and spiritual elements that have sustained the faith for generations. Will these two powerful figures find a way to merge their visions? The coming years will test whether these two leaders can bridge their differences or if their conflict will lead to the splitting of the Church. The future remains uncertain, and only time will tell. As this divide deepens, the core issue becomes clear: the tension between global reform and local devotion. Luis's focus on the Sacred Heart and the need for a more intimate, personal faith clashes with the Pope's vision of a church committed to social transformation. Cardinal Luis's quiet revolution. The tension between global reform and local devotion lies at the heart of this conflict. Luis highlights the importance of the Sacred Heart, especially in the Philippines, where this devotion is key to faith. While Pope Francis sees the Church as a way to promote social change, Luis believes true change comes from a personal connection with Christ. At the 2024 National Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis, Luis fired back at the Pope's global vision, making it clear change must start in the heart or it's meaningless. Cardinal Luis doesn't just talk about reform, he's living it. From the crowded streets of Manila to the global stage, his impact is undeniable. His power doesn't come from flashy speeches or political maneuvering. It comes from his unwavering dedication to the people he serves, especially the poor and marginalized. It's not just about charity for Luis. It's about staying grounded in the real struggles of the people, serving them with humility and unwavering commitment. His work on episcopal collegiality during Vatican II remains a key theological contribution. These contributions go beyond theory. They're rooted in lived experience. As Bishop of Imus in 2001, he lived among his people, serving them with compassion. His promotion to Archbishop of Manila and then to the College of Cardinals amplified his mission to be a voice for the voiceless. As president of ATUS International, Luis oversaw over 160 Catholic relief organizations. Yet his focus always remained on the local, the personal, and the intimate. While Pope Francis pushes for a global, inclusive church that seeks social justice, Luis believes that real change comes from the profound love of Christ, a love that transforms lives from within. Cardinal Luis isn't an enemy of Pope Francis, but a moral compass, reminding the Church that external changes must be rooted in internal transformation. His revolution is not loud or flashy, it's a revolution of the heart. And as the Church moves forward, it may be this radical, intimate encounter with Christ that proves to be the most revolutionary of all. This quiet yet powerful approach to change is mirrored in Luis's own life. In a world where power is flaunted and authority is celebrated, his humility stands as a striking contrast, a bold voice in a divided church. In a world where power is flaunted and authority is celebrated, Cardinal Luis stands as a striking contrast. Known affectionately as Cheeto by his followers, his simple nickname reflects an extraordinary humility that has captured the hearts of millions. But don't be fooled. This simple nickname doesn't diminish his influence. In fact, it highlights his skill in navigating both the Church's politics and the fast-changing digital world. With over 500,000 followers on Facebook, Cardinal Luis's messages of hope, peace, and forgiveness resonate far beyond the traditional boundaries of the Church. In an era where the faithful are increasingly disconnected from the clergy, his ability to blend timeless Catholic values with the modern communication tools of the digital age has set him apart. He's not just a priest or a cardinal, he's a spiritual leader who has cultivated a deep connection with the people, becoming a guiding light for those who feel lost or disillusioned by the world's chaos. From his vocal criticism of political corruption to his firm stance on climate change, he has consistently raised his voice on the most urgent social issues of our time. He has made it clear that these issues are not statistics. They are human lives, families, and futures in jeopardy. By calling for the faithful to see Christ in every migrant, refugee, and marginalized person, he has forced the world to confront uncomfortable truths about justice and compassion. His stand for human dignity has earned him both admiration and controversy as he refuses to back down in the face of opposition. Perhaps most strikingly, Cardinal Luis has taken a courageous stance on issues many would rather avoid, including his passionate opposition to the death penalty. His unwavering defense of life has positioned him at odds with both government authorities and even other church leaders, challenging the status quo. In his view, life is sacred, and no government or institution holds the moral authority to take it away. This stance has sparked intense debates, placing him in the heart of the most heated discussions within the Church and the world. In October 2024, Cardinal Luis found himself at the center of the Vatican Summit, a critical event that would prove to be a defining moment in the clash between reform and tradition within the Church. Pope Francis had called for an open dialogue, urging delegates from across the globe to listen to one another and set aside personal agendas in favor of discernment. Yet despite outwardly supporting the Pope's call for unity, Cardinal Luis's voice became increasingly firm and distinct. This subtle but forceful opposition marked a crucial point in the ongoing battle for the Church's future direction. The big question now is whether these two visions for the Church can coexist. Can Pope Francis's global reform align with Cardinal Luis's tradition-focused approach? The tensions between them remain palpable, and while some see their differing views as a source of division, others believe they offer a balance between tradition and progress, inclusivity, and reverence for sacred practices. What if the debates between Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis are merely the tip of the iceberg? Behind closed doors, a secret agenda is unfolding, one that could reshape the entire Church's structure. Some speculate that Pope Francis's controversial decisions, like appointing more progressive cardinals or pushing for doctrinal reforms, are part of a calculated effort to secure his vision for the Church's future, even if it means breaking from tradition. Cardinal Luis, however, might be the one fighting to preserve an institution that, in his eyes, is in danger of losing its original purpose. Could the tension between the two be less about disagreement and more about a larger, unseen struggle for the future of the papacy? As the Church faces growing challenges in today's polarized world, Cardinal Luis's legacy is still unfolding. His voice, rooted in empathy, humility, and a strong commitment to social justice, will continue to resonate in the Vatican and beyond. Cardinal Luis reminds us that real change in the Church doesn't come from politics or policy, but from the radical love of Christ, a love that starts in the heart and transforms lives. His quiet revolution is shaping the future of the Catholic Church in deep and unpredictable ways. This transformation is not just about individual change, but about how the Church as a whole navigates its own complexities. A new era for the Catholic Church. Embracing diversity and unity, says priest at Synod Retreat. In October 2024, a two-day retreat led by Dominican Father Timothy Radcliffe set the stage for a major turning point in the Catholic Church, one that would shake the very core of the Catholic Church. Father Radcliffe asked a question that would stick with everyone. How can the Church embrace diverse cultures without breaking under the weight of its own complexity? This question echoed through the summit, setting the stage for a confrontation between two powerful figures whose visions for the Church could not be more different: Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis. Father Radcliffe's metaphor of a fishing net, balancing unity with diversity, became the rallying cry of the summit. But it wasn't just the delegates from around the world that made the air thick with tension. As the crowd gathered, a quietly powerful figure entered the scene: Cardinal Luis Antonio Tal. The main focus, however, was on Pope Francis, sitting in his wheelchair at 87 years old. His leadership had always focused on reform and bringing people together. His physical weakness contrasted with the huge task he faced, guiding a divided church through a time of change. Despite Pope Francis's call for humility and listening, Cardinal Luis stood as a quiet challenge to his progressive agenda. Luis, though outwardly supportive, believed strongly in preserving the Church's traditional structures and practices. The tension between the Pope's global vision and Cardinal Luis's focus on preservation would simmer beneath the surface. But it was destined to explode. The summit reached a dramatic climax when Pope Francis approved a document calling for more involvement from laypeople and major changes in church administration. These reforms reflected the Pope's vision for an inclusive church. Cardinal Luis, while hesitant, reluctantly agreed to the changes. His quiet acceptance raised eyebrows. Was it an act of unity or a reluctant compromise forced upon him by the weight of the Church's power? The answer was elusive, but the implications were undeniable. The Church was at a crossroads, and the divide between reform and tradition was deeper than ever. Then in December 2024, Pope Francis made another dramatic gesture, this time opening the Holy Door at Rabbia Prison in Rome, showing his commitment to mercy. This gesture, reaching out to those in need, symbolized his push for social reform. But this message of compassion clashed with the more conservative forces within the Church, with Cardinal Luis leading the opposition. However, this battle wasn't fought in the public eye. It played out quietly within the halls of the Vatican, in private conversations, and through carefully crafted statements. On Christmas Day, Pope Francis stood at St. Peter's Basilica and delivered a heartfelt message of hope and peace to the world. His powerful Urbi et Orbi address called for unity and urged Ukraine and Russia to come to the table for a just and lasting peace. His appeal for negotiations between Ukraine and Russia held significant weight, especially as Russia launched a major strike on Ukrainian energy facilities on the very same day. Yet beneath his words, a growing rift within the church began to take shape, one that would only deepen with time. The public clashes between Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis may have been the first signs of a much larger issue within the church. Whispers of a split were growing, not just in the Vatican, but across Catholic communities worldwide. As traditionalist groups rallied behind Cardinal Luis and progressives continued to back Pope Francis, the divisions within the church became ever more apparent. Could this be the beginning of a split that would leave millions of Catholics questioning where they truly belonged? The future of the church might not be determined by one man's final word, but by how the global community responds to the growing divide between the forces of change and tradition. The question no one dared to voice became unavoidable. Is this a personality clash between two powerful leaders, or is it a deeper divide about the future of the church? Could it be that the church was struggling to reconcile Pope Francis's radical reforms with Cardinal Luis's unwavering commitment to preserving its deep-rooted traditions? The debate was no longer just about policy, it was about the very essence of the church's future. The deeper question that hung over everything was, can the church survive this ideological battle, or will it fracture irreparably under the weight of its own contradictions? As Pope Francis neared the end of his papacy, a moment of truth was bound to happen. Critics claimed his push for change had compromised the church's foundational principles, while his supporters hailed him as a visionary, making the church more inclusive and compassionate. With his time in office drawing to a close, the question remained, what would Pope Francis's true legacy be? Would he be remembered as the leader who ushered the church into the modern age, or as the Pope who alienated the faithful in pursuit of a progressive agenda? Cardinal Luis, once seen as a mere rival, might now hold the key to shaping how future generations remember this papacy. This was no longer simply a theological dispute, it was a battle for the church's very identity. Could it evolve to meet the challenges of a changing world, or would it buckle under the weight of its own contradictions? The world watched, holding its breath, as the church confronted an existential crisis that would ultimately define its future. Each day brought new tensions. Every moment felt like a countdown to something world-changing. The question remained, could these vastly different visions for the church coexist? Or would this ideological divide tear it apart? Who would emerge victorious in the battle for the soul of the Vatican? Only time would tell, and the clock was ticking. And that's the explosive showdown between Cardinal Luis and Pope Francis, a debate that's rocking the very foundations of the Catholic Church. What do you think? Will this clash lead to lasting change, or is it just the beginning of a much bigger conflict? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story as captivating as we did, be sure to hit the like button, share it with others, and subscribe for more updates on this ongoing story. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tune in for the next episode.